for Dr. J.
I'm just continuing the conversation.
Yes, I know. We're going to stop that conversation for legal purposes. We will move on to rhetoric.
Well, I actually do it with commercials, right? And when I used to teach Home 115.
Right.
Apparently that class is not shut down to me.
Really?
Because Terry likes me.
What did she do? Give you one?
Not yet, but she said that it's open for me if I want it. So the next summer when we're teaching face-to-face,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask for it. They need to bring the departments back together and let everyone teach it.
They're not going to bring the departments back together as long as you know who's there.
She should not be named.
Yeah. Different she who should not be named from the other one that previously has been mentioned on this podcast.
Oh, yes.
Yes. The Anglophile.
I share her Anglophilia.
You really want to go down that path?
I too have known the love of a country.
Apparently you do. Apparently you just want to take your finger and dig into that wound.
It's not a wound anymore, it's healed.
It is. It's very healed now. So, time.
I think one day you might actually want to go there.
Time wounds all wounds.
Time wounds all heals.
Wounds all There you go. There's your there's your piece of philosophy today. Time wounds all heals.
I think you should start the podcast with those words. Time wounds all heals.
Time wounds all heals. No, I'm done. I'm through that. I don't know about it's going to take a minute for the country. Unless I do that thing like I told you where I go on a boat. Go on a boat to Greece or Italy.
Work your
my
way
way up, and then hop on a boat in England and come back.
You read the Channel.
Yeah.
Unless you're scared of being underwater.
No.
Okay. I want to ride the Channel so bad.
Yeah.
They didn't have the Channel when I was there.
Yeah.
To get to France, you either had to fly or take a ferry.
Ooh. A ferry boat ride would be fun. I like ferry boat rides.
Me too.
Last one I was on was in Savannah.
Georgia?
Mm-hmm.
Huh? Down the river?
Across. So when you're on River Street, you catch a ferry and goes up to some of the islands. It's really cool.
I imagine it's called River Street for a reason.
Yeah, it's on the ocean.
Yeah, it's just fucked up.
No, I'm kidding. It's on the river. Yeah.
Because wouldn't that be great, though?
Yeah.
There's no river to be seen.
Yeah,
There's an ocean.
No, it's on the river. Don't ask me what river it is. I have no idea. But it's the coolest place. It's one of the coolest places in the world because it's just the shops are awesome. So anyway,
never went to Savannah.
it's pretty cool.
Are we on?
Oh yeah, we've been on.
Shit. You never let me know. You just.
I know. I just start because I capture the flagrance of the conversation.
The fragrance.
The fragrance. No, not fragrance. Flagrance.
I capture your flagrant conversation. You, sir, are violent.
Yeah.
So what's today's topic?
Rhetoric.
I didn't prepare.
Oh, whatever. I didn't either.
My understanding of rhetoric, and I understand the technical aspects, but it's I'm not saying this is true for you because it is, but you're really big into the theory. Mine is the effect of it when you have what can best be described as negative rhetoric, because there's positive rhetoric. Encouraging people to do the right thing using persuasion is cool.
Yeah.
Churchill used rhetoric to great effect for a good cause. So did Lincoln.
Yeah.
So did Roosevelt. Bush never met a rhetorical strategy that he understood, but he tried. But my concern when I teach critical thinking, which isn't anymore, but when I used to teach it, was what effect negative rhetoric has on us and what happens when we don't know it's going on.
Yeah. Which is what's happening in the media today.
It's all media. Well, and what I do with mine, because for yours, they write about newspaper articles.
Yeah.
And how are they reporting the story?
Yeah.
And so what most people who are untrained in it, which is almost everyone now,
Yeah.
because it's no longer a part of the curriculum, right? Back in the day, in the Middle Ages, rhetoric was one of the main topics of study.
So, back in the day, correct me if I'm wrong, this is what I understand the college to be. It was the languages, philosophy, and math.
Yes. And you would have picked up rhetoric through languages.
Yep.
The trivium. It's shameful. I talk about it with my students when I get them to watch commercials.
Mm-hmm.
And I first have to teach them how, because they've never thought about this shit before.
Right.
I ask them, first I tell them, this is how we think about target audience. This is how we think about message. You identify your demographic, and once you identify your demographic as an advertiser, you have to convince them that without this product, they are missing something in their life, and that buying this product will change their life. Mm-hmm. They will go through a radical lifestyle shift,
right,
because they bought this candle.
Right.
Which, when you say it out loud like that, it sounds completely stupid. But they don't say it out loud like that.
No.
They manipulate
it's
you.
Visual.
Right, and the commercial, one of the commercials I show them the Old Spice commercial, which is anti-rhetoric. It's making fun of these commercials.
Yeah.
But I show them the Folgers Christmas commercial. I like to call it the incest commercial. If you type in Folgers
Best
and
part of waking up is your sister in your cup.
Oh, it's so creepy. It's so creepy. But I tell them, I'm like, so what's the audience, right? I mean, we're talking about white, middle-class, middle-aged, conservative Christian mothers whose children have flown the coop. What are you trying to tell them? Well, if you buy this coffee, your children will come home and they'll be great people.
Yeah.
And they'll love each other in creepy ways.
Okay, so the one I always reference is the Bounty commercial, the same Bounty commercial that they've just redone like 20 times, but it's the same one. So you got a mom, stay-at-home mom.
Yep.
And the kid.
Yep.
Little 5-year-old brat.
Yep.
And for some reason, over 40 years of Bounty commercials, we have yet to figure out not to give the little bastard Kool-Aid, because what does he do?
He spills it.
Red Kool-Aid everywhere. And what does she do? She grabs the quicker picker-upper.
She never spanks the child.
She never spanks the child. She never gets angry with the child. She's always like, oh, Danny. And she takes her Bounty and she wipes it right up. Bye-bye Kool-Aid. And the kid, what does he do? He runs off. It's kind of like the new Swiver commercial, the one Swiver commercial where the dude like cleans the house.
Yes.
And the kids come in with mud on their shoes. Those would be dead kids, dude. Yeah. No, what does he do? He grabs a Swiffer and he cleans it up. So the message, don't get mad. Get even with Swiffer and Bounty. Don't stop giving your kid Kool-Aid. Just get the quicker picker-upper.
Keep making the exact same mistake over and over and
for
over
40
again.
freaking years.
At some point, mom's got to learn.
I know, right?
And it's a cycle, because that kid is going to do the same thing when she grows up, or he grows up. Going to get the Swiffer and the Bounty. Don't worry, kids. It's all right. You keep being assholes. I got this. At no point is it like, all right, kid, you're an asshole. No more Kool-Aid ever
again.
Anywhere.
Just water.
Yep.
Get water.
Or what they never do, and this is what I do in my household. When my kid fucks up, he cleans it up. Mm-hmm. You made this mess?
You get the bounty.
Here you go. Clean that shit. And after you wipe it up with the bounty, get out the Swiffer. Shove it up your ass. Just completely unrealistic. But it's for mothers who coddle their kids.
Yeah.
Who are too sensitive.
Yep.
I mean, shit. So we see it in commercials, and I tell my students, the reason you buy the shit you don't need is because they hook you with some weird-ass message. And if you think the commercial's funny or you're like, ooh, you're not the target audience.
Yeah.
But these women who are middle-class, middle-aged, white, conservative Christian moms, that's the audience, and it speaks to them.
Yeah. Now, that's during the daytime.
That's during the daytime.
Different periods of the day.
That's right.
You see different types of commercials for different audiences.
Yep.
And I always tell this wonderful story about my oldest son. He was about 4 or 5 years old. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, he started talking about the Chevy, I think it was a Chevy Equinox.
How old was he?
He was 4 or 5.
Wow.
Because at the time, it was getting to where I still had my Prelude, and it was getting to the point where I was going to have to get a new car. And so he heard me and his mother talking about me getting a new car. So he starts talking about this Chevy Equinox. I'm like, first of all, I'm not buying another Chevy because we still had the Blazer at that point. That was a piece of shit. So I was working on that thing every weekend. There was like a 4 or 5 month period where every single weekend I was working on that damn car.
But hey,
I hated it.
Buy American.
Yeah, I hated that car. I was so... Anyway, so my Prelude had over 400,000 miles on it. I was like, I've got to get a new car. So we started looking. And he kept talking about this Chevy Equinox. Where is he getting this from? And she's like, I don't know. So I got off work early one day. And I came home. And I got to sit with him while he watched his afternoon cartoons. And he watched SpongeBob SquarePants and The Fairly Odd Parents every day on Nickelodeon. Every other commercial break during the cartoons, there's a commercial for a Chevy Equinox. Now, the voiceover, and this is what I show my students and I explain everything to them. I break it down. If you listen to the voiceover, they're talking to the parents. They're talking about the mileage, they're talking about the motor, they're talking about all the features that the car has. But that's not what you're seeing.
Nope.
What you see is these two kids up in their room playing. A thunderstorm comes up, knocks out the power. So they run out into the rain, into the car. Turn on the car and turn on the TV in the car so they can finish watching the cartoons that they were watching in their little playroom upstairs. And that's what my son saw.
And had no idea.
I had no idea that he was being targeted. And that commercial was clearly built to target children, not the parents of the children. And God knows how many fucking Chevy Equinoxes were sold because some brat watching SpongeBob came up to mom and dad. We gotta get a Chevy Equinox, Dad. Okay, son.
Now it's in your head.
Yeah. So they do that all the time. But then, you look at 6 o'clock news or the 6:30 national news. 6:30 national news is when it's bad because you know exactly who they're targeting. They're targeting white, middle-aged men.
Yep.
Specifically in their 40s and 50s.
And specifically middle class.
Middle class. You will see Lexus commercials. And who's driving it? White, male, middle-class man. You'll see Viagra commercials. Who has problems that needs Viagra? White, male, middle-class men. You see digestive problems like Pepsid AC. Who has digestive problems? You see,
Yep.
yeah, the depression pills. Now, sometimes the depression pills are targeted towards the women.
Yeah, for mom.
Because mom has to deal with white, male, middle-aged dad.
Who refuses to go on the Viagra.
Who refuses to go on the Viagra and is trying to get a motorcycle.
You know what that means.
Yeah. Midlife crisis. So, hello, 20-year-old girl. I'm not a creepy dad. So anyway. So that's what you see during the news.
Yep.
Because that's who's watching and they know it.
Yes. Well, and the other thing they do, and this is not commercials, but it's just as sinister, is how the news is reported on TV. I specify because when it's, and I said this recently, when news is reported in the newspaper, we have time to process what we're reading so we can kind of see it as it's happening.
Yeah.
Not on television media.
No, it happens too fast.
I was,
Cycles change too fast.
They do, and I've told this story before. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, but this was after 9/11. It was 2 or 3 weeks after 9/11. I was watching CNN, and I don't know what I would have done with the information had I not been trained in literary analysis, which is it's just rhetoric. That's all you're doing.
That's all
when
it is.
When you interpret literature, is you're looking at how the material is presented. You're looking at the language itself.
Where do you think I got the love for it from?
Yeah, well, it's all literature.
Yeah.
Well, and you had that rhetoric class too. That kind of, you can talk about that.
2 of them.
Yeah. That you talked about it last week.
Yep.
Or week before, actually.
Yeah, because in both of them they looked at Shakespeare.
But I was watching this.
Among other things.
They were just doing the big stories, and one of the stories was about Pakistani protesters in New York. Okay, fine. And I'm sure that's what most Americans heard when they heard that story. But what the news anchor actually said, and I still can't believe it to this day, quote, "New York City was targeted today by Pakistani protesters."
Yeah, targeted.
What?
Yeah.
What? And I tell my students, I'm like, they've used the passive voice to place certain information up front. So the first thing you see is New York City. It's 3 weeks after 9/11. Oh my God, what happened now? Targeted. Holy Jesus.
Yeah.
Pakistanis. Oh my God. Protesters. Oh, okay. But it's too late now.
Yeah.
It's in your head. And all it did was feed the fear of people from that part of the world. That's all and that's what it was designed to do.
Yep.
Because it keeps you watching. And you cannot look away. It's like a train wreck. You can't look away. I tell my students all the time, we like carnage.
All right, second headline on the New York Times right now. I just opened it. Second headline. Should your school be fully open? Question mark. Here's what the CDC says.
They didn't have to run it that way.
They didn't have to run it that way. They didn't have to pose it as a question.
They could have just said CDC reports that.
Yeah.
But
That's
no.
straight. That's unbiased reporting. No, what they said was, should your school be fully open? They've already placed doubt in the CDC.
They've placed doubt in the CDC, and they've placed fear in your mind about your child's welfare.
Yep. By adding that, that's the second headline on the New York Times right now.
Is Junior going to kill Grandma by going to school?
Yeah.
No, it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah.
And I can think of, and you know more about the theory aspect of rhetoric because you've studied it a lot more, I think, in its rawest form than I have. But in practice, the only solution to the problem, and we can talk about it again at the end, is education.
Yeah.
Because these kids are going through school, not one class devoted to rhetoric.
Right.
Not a single. We should have to have. Okay, so I think every student should have to take a philosophy class. Period. No questions asked.
Yeah.
It can just be basic intro to philosophy.
Yeah.
Every kid should have to have a rhetoric class, and every kid should have to have a digital and media literacy class. Because that will solve this problem.
Yeah.
Because if you have those classes and you make every kid go through those classes and I'm talking like 9, 10, 11 years old, when you still have them and they still give a flying fuck about education.
All right, so here's another thing. I'm going to show this, put this up to the camera, and hopefully they'll be able to see it.
Something's got to give, Brian.
If you can't, okay, so you're doing it early.
Yes.
So if you notice, you probably see those red numbers. Here's what they're doing. This is all rhetorical. So it says tracking the coronavirus. I'll put this up so you can see it. Hopefully you can see it. There we go. You should be able to.
You can't add that later.
Yeah. Anyway, you should be able to see it. Rewind it and watch it. It says tracking the coronavirus, new cases, it's always in red. There's a little arrow that's pointing down because the cases are coming down, but they do it in red.
Yep. And how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
Anxious.
Yeah. It's done on purpose. New Deaths is in black.
Yep.
So,
You shouldn't have to have a graduate degree to spot this shit, is all I'm saying.
you shouldn't.
But we're the only ones who are.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing, right? So it's not. So visual rhetoric is probably the most powerful. It's more powerful than audio, and
Oh, the written word ain't got nothing on it
no.
in terms of its impact.
Yeah. It used to,
It used to.
but not anymore.
I think
No,
it
they
still
used to.
does in parts of the world.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we just saw a Biscuitville truck go by. Well, I just saw a Biscuitville truck go by.
Yeah, I didn't see
So-
shit. I saw a big blur.
All right, talking about food. Here's something that, a lot of people don't realize when they walk into a restaurant, especially a fast food restaurant. Now, the anatomy of the fast food restaurant is fascinating. It truly is. One of the things that you notice, though, if you start paying attention, is the uses of the colors red and yellow.
Yep. Talk about
Because-
that in my class, too.
Yes, because those two colors, when associated with food, promote hunger.
Yes. In fact, I get them to watch, I don't know if you've ever seen the YouTube channel Cracked,
Yeah.
honest ads.
Oh, yeah.
And they talk about that shit
Yeah.
with fast food.
Now, the layout, here's the other cool thing. This is rhetorical, too. The layout of the restaurants themselves promote even more hunger. If you walk into a fast food restaurant, the kitchens are always wide open.
And you smell it before you see it.
Smell it before you see it. Because they also put the return ducts for the air system in the dining room to pull the air from the kitchen into the dining room. This is done on purpose.
And you used to work at one of these places.
Yes. I didn't know what was going on back then.
You didn't have any expertise in
No,
rhetoric.
I didn't. But they do that on purpose. They hook you.
And that's kind of the problem, right? Is that
The drive-through menus are designed to make you want more than what you want.
And the problem with rhetoric as it's used in this really nasty way is it's entirely visceral.
Yeah.
It's never intellectual. It's
Right.
never cerebral. It's always visceral.
Yeah.
And in the case of fast food, it's literally visceral.
Yeah.
I mean, you are thinking with your gut. You are not thinking with your brain and saying, what are they actually up to here? The good news, it's not hard to teach.
Right.
Because once you see it, you can never unsee it. Ever. Ever. And that part I like a lot. When do you want to touch on the theoretical aspect of it? Because I think that matters.
We're getting there. The visual, we'll get. Did you do that? I think you
Probably.
did.
Probably.
I think you nudged it.
I hope so. Otherwise, we got a guest on the podcast here.
Yeah.
The visual rhetoric is powerful. We use it in the Episcopal Church, but it's not. Well, okay, I take that back. That's also intellectual. One of the things you'll notice about every Episcopal church is they have red doors.
Yeah.
So if you're driving around town, you can't find an Episcopal church. Just look for the church with red doors.
Right.
That's the Episcopal Church.
Right.
And it's not negative. It's just trying to indicate to you, by the way,
Here we are.
here we are.
Well, and the Catholics, a lot of the Catholic churches have symbology on the outside of their buildings to denote.
That's right.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
And that's not nasty. It's not.
And I use it with this.
Of course you do.
There, if you look at the title card, it's the beta file symbol above the Optic Poet. And so I'm branding the beta files while it's a separate piece of the beta files,
That's right.
right? We do it all the time.
And the question is, is it negative, positive, or benign? And in your case, it's benign. It's just
Right.
This is what you are watching.
It's association. Yeah.
Right. This is what you're watching.
Yeah.
We're not trying to convince you of anything. It's just here it is. And so logos aren't in themselves a bad thing.
Right.
But
But they serve certain purposes.
they do. The only problem that logos get into is when the logo is attached to a lifestyle.
Right.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Because that's an attempt to control the person's feelings,
Yeah.
not their mind.
Right. Like the rainbow.
Whereas when you're looking at your, I don't know, they don't call it a news feed in YouTube, do they?
No.
What do they call it when you're scrolling through?
It's just, I think it's just your feed.
Okay. So when you're looking at the feed, it makes it easier to spot certain things.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not against logos on YouTube because, oh, okay, there it is. This is what
Yeah.
I've been looking for. And
Right.
that's harmless.
It is harmless. But when you have logos like the swastika, it's been packaged.
It has been packaged.
Right? Same thing with the stars and bars. It's been packaged now.
The
That's
gold-
that's the whole argument about that flag,
Yep.
is that the original message has been reprogrammed,
Yes.
and it symbolizes something that it was never meant to symbolize, right? So it becomes like
But-
the actual true Confederate flag. 9 out of 10 Americans would be able to point it out.
No. The Stars and Bars was rebranded by the Klan.
Mm-hmm.
It really was. I mean, that's so when people get angry, people who are pro Stars and Bars flag, and they say it's heritage, not hate. But it is hate because the Klan got hold of it.
The heritage is hate.
I mean,
right?
it truly is, and that's unfortunate, and people don't like to hear that because they have an attachment to the flag itself and to what it stands for, which to them has nothing to do with slavery. And I do believe that. I don't believe that I mean, most of the people who like the Stars and Bars think slavery is an aberration.
Right.
But it's naive to assume that it doesn't have this other connotation because the Klan made it so.
Right. Actually, I'll probably use the Moodle app. All right, I'm gonna bring up the triangles.
Please, because this is your ballywick, your wheelhouse.
My wheelhouse. I know, but I've been letting you talk more
Because we've been told to.
because we've been told that you don't talk enough.
Well, I'm okay with the Ed McMahon role of just saying yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
No, I
Need a little bit more scotch.
I have I have very strong feelings about it, but truly, and
Well,
this
you come at it from a practical view.
this is like every other problem we have.
Right.
It is easily solved by education.
Yes.
There aren't many problems in the world you can't solve by teaching a little kid how to see it and how to avoid it.
Right.
You're never going to keep teenagers from having sex. It's not going to happen. But what you can do is give them an education.
Just look at St. Mary's Sex Drive. It just didn't work out for those people.
Oh, that was fantastic.
That is coming to Substack soon. I promise. It's coming.
But no, it's really
Oh
not.
God, I didn't do my intro.
Which one?
If you like what you see, subscribe, hit the like button, check us out. We are coming to Substack in days from now. From when you see this, we will be on Substack. Yay! All right, go ahead. It seems that what?
It's really simple.
Right.
It would require no effort, and you don't have to give them the triangles, though I think they need those too
Right.
to identify things and classify things.
Well, it explains his theory. Well, not
Aristotle's.
theory. Not his theory. It explains his method.
Yes. Well, it is a theory. It is a theory.
But we call it a theory because it's reality.
It's a theory that is borne out in reality.
Right.
It's an approach.
Yeah. So here's how I explain it to my students.
Right.
Okay, it's opening. Here, choose this app. Okay, here's how I explain it to my students. So Socrates comes along, and Socrates says there is a method to communication.
Socrates?
Socrates.
Okay.
He says there's a method to communication. Plato comes in behind him and says, yes, there is a method of communication, and the person who drives the conversation is the person with the highest intellect. And Aristotle comes along and says, no. So you have low intellect and drive the conversation.
Yep.
And he breaks down the pieces of that, right? And he gives us what we know as the Aristotelian modes, which are logos, pathos, and ethos, right? As he continues to develop rhetoric throughout the Poetics, he starts to explain how there are multiple ways to engage with those modes, right? And he comes up with the 6 triangles. And these triangles are layered, okay? So you start at the bottom. The base triangle is author, text, audience. The author writes the text for an audience, which determines what the author is going to write. So the example I always give is Stephen King.
Right.
So Stephen King writes horror. That's what his audience expects. The audience demands more horror. Well, if he decides, you know what, I'm going to write a children's book, that audience is not going to buy it. No. Like the diehards will, but the typical audience that he has, the broader audience, they're not going to buy a children's book.
No.
They're going to be like, oh my God, something's wrong with him. He's fallen off his rocker.
And they'd be right.
And they'd be right. And so then the text disconnects itself from the audience because it's a text that the audience didn't ask for. Now, I also talk about the talking heads on cable news, right? Each one of them have a specific audience that they're targeting. Rachel Maddow has her target audience. Sean Hannity has his target audience, right? They produce a text for that audience every night, and that audience, depending on the ratings, is going to determine what text those two are going to give to their audience. If the audience goes down, they change the text. If the audience buys that new text, they keep with it.
Yep.
Right? The big criticism with him was Benghazi. The big criticism with her was Russiagate. Why? Because they found a text that the audience wanted and they stuck with it. And they never gave it up.
Nope.
Right? Because that was their thing. That was what was driving the ratings. Once the ratings started to fall, they backed off.
They find something else.
They found something else. Right? So that's the base triangle. The next one up is the logic triangle, which is the modes. Logos, pathos, and ethos. Logos being the logic, pathos being the emotion, and ethos being the credibility, right? The logic being the actual material, the evidence, right? And then what you do is you take that evidence and you twist it. After you've established credibility with the audience through that evidence, you start to twist it towards their emotional appeal. What's going to make them want this evidence? How am I going to get them to actually react to this evidence, right? That's where spin comes.
Yep.
Aristotle actually talks about spin, and he says the evidence itself presents a certain type of logic that you're engaging with, but in order for the audience to react, you have to add emotion. And you have to actually make them feel a negative way about that logic. And then they can actually use that logic.
Right.
Right? So it's not in the logic. Now, he's not condoning it. He's just saying this is how it works. In fact, you get more engagement with negative appeals than you do with positive appeals.
Which we still do.
Yes.
Media, and you'll notice they don't run a whole lot of human interest pieces.
No.
Because that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Feeling good does not sell copy.
No.
Feeling scared and angry, that sells copy.
Well, okay, so here's an interesting thing that I heard a couple weeks ago on Crystal and Sagar. The ratings for MSNBC, Fox News, and CNN have plummeted.
No more Trump.
No more Trump. And they can't make Biden look like a bad guy.
No. They're screwed.
They're screwed.
All they can hope is that in the next few years, Trump says he's running again.
Mm-hmm.
Then they can scare the hell out of their audience again.
Or a second Trump rises up.
Or a second Trump rises up.
Right.
Some other Sith
Well, if going back to the rumors from before the election that Tucker may run as a libertarian or a Republican, oh, that would sell copy in a heartbeat because they already hate Tucker. They hate him with a passion.
Yep.
Because he kicked their butts.
Oh, he's owned the airwaves now.
And it's hilarious.
Whether you like him or not. Oh,
I want that bow tie back so bad.
when did he stop wearing that after Crossfire?
He did. When he got to MSNBC, he went to a necktie. Well, when he went to MSNBC, he didn't have a tie. He just had the open shirt. And then when he got to Fox is when he started putting the necktie on.
Maybe if he runs, he'll wear a
He'll
neck.
put the bow
He'll put the
tie.
bow tie on. I mean, I don't like.
Make America bow tie again.
There is nothing.
Make Tucker bow tie again. There we go. There it is.
there is nothing he says that I like or agree with, but he's a lot of fun.
He is a ton of fun.
He's a lot of fun.
He's always been fun.
I mean, he's just as guilty as spin as any of them.
Are you kidding me?
In that regard, he's no different.
I love to watch them get their panties in a wad over him. I love it. It's so good, and he's doing it just to piss them off.
And what does he have training in?
Rhetoric. Yep. Yeah.
They all do. All the
of
ad
them do.
agencies have training in rhetoric. All the news outlets hire people with training in rhetoric.
Right.
Because you can't manipulate it without knowing it.
Right.
You have to be versed in it.
Yes.
And if you're versed in it, you can control anybody.
Yep.
Right? Like my kids and I are watching the prequels, the Star Wars prequels again.
Oh God, why did you do that to
Well,
yourself?
I like the third one a lot.
Well, yeah, the third one's pretty.
But I like the first one.
Well, up until the point where she's lost the will to live.
Yeah, and that was
in the theater that day. Me and my first wife went and saw it, and everybody in the theater, I swear to God, every man to himself. Oh!
I mean, it's true, but don't say it.
Don't say it.
You don't have to say it. But we've been watching it again and looking at how this really horrible human being controls everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of it he does with words.
Rhetorically.
It's all rhetoric.
Yeah.
And it's a scathing indictment. One of the things I like about those prequels is they're a scathing indictment of the political system.
Yeah.
And they do that in a way that than the original trilogy just doesn't. It's not even on their radar. But for the prequels, they're talking about politics.
Yeah.
And how this is what happens when a demagogue becomes powerful.
It's the establishment of the Galactic Empire.
Yes, it is.
You got to show how that actually happened, and
It's brilliant.
all the complaints about the prequels, that is probably the smartest thing Lucas did through those storylines, was show how this happened. Because we're watching those prequels to see how Darth Vader is born. What we're actually seeing is how the Empire was born.
That's right.
And how Sidious actually moved in
Yes.
and created this new government regime
Yes.
that was built to control the galaxy.
Yes.
Yeah, we just went on a Star Wars nerd out. Get
But
over it.
it's real, and it's a good example
Yeah.
of rhetoric that ultimately controls people. Like at the end of Revenge of the Sith, what does Palpatine do? He tells them, "I've been deformed," and they see the deformity.
Yeah.
And that makes them even angrier
Yeah.
at the Jedi.
Yep.
It's brilliant.
It is.
It's absolutely brilliant. It is a scathing critique of using rhetoric in such a nasty way.
What's the line that she has? This is how democracy fails through.
It's how democracy dies,
how democracy dies.
with thunderous applause.
With thunderous applause.
That's right. Anyway, you were doing the.
That's a hardcore indictment. Right
It is.
there. Yeah.
You were doing the triangles.
Well, we were talking about the emotional thing. Pathos is probably the most important part of the modes,
yes.
because it's how you get the message. Once you establish that credibility, you can do whatever you want.
Yes.
All right, so the next one up is one that you and I have engaged with more than anything else through our careers, and that is the character triangle, where you have, character, topic, and suffering, right? The character engages with the topic, and then there's suffering, which leads to growth in the character, who then re-engages with the topic and creates more suffering. And this this endless cycle,
Yes.
right? And of course, this goes into the narrative arc, right? You introduce the character, you get to the first plot point. The first plot point introduces the problem that the character has to overcome. And then from that plot point to the second plot point, you see how the character fails at trying to solve the problem.
Yes.
Then between the second and third plot point is where you get resolution, because the character finds the means to overcome this hardship that's introduced during the first plot point. And of course, everything changes and the character overcomes it in some way, right? And this can be applied in anything. It's not just fiction or poetry or drama, right? This can be applied to a political career. When we look at politics, there are certain things you have to do. Why did Buttigieg not win the presidency? Because he's a freaking mayor. He hasn't done anything else but mayor.
Yep.
Right? So what is he now? He's part of the cabinet.
Yep.
What's he going to do after the cabinet? He'll probably be like a senator or rep. What's up, brother? You doing all right?
man?
Yeah. Doing great, man. Spring is right around the corner, man. Spring is right around the corner. It's coming.
Let's see you, Brian.
See you. It's good to see you, man. It's coming. It's coming. God, what a guy.
Our cameo.
Our cameo. Yes, our weekly cameo from Brian, the mysterious guy. All right, another Brian in this world.
What do you do?
Yeah, what do you...
Well, I'm just going to come out and ask him.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I'm telling you, man, he's with the mob.
Yeah.
I'm in the trash business.
God.
Got some buddies over at UPS.
I may or may not have done some business in the end zone of Giant Stadium.
Yeah. With a guy that y'all might know, Hoffa.
The Teamsters can suck it.
I thought he was in the Hoover Dam. I don't know.
Oh, God. Anyway, character, problem, struggle.
No, character, topic, and suffering.
Yes.
Which, again, informs the character. So, yeah, when you look at, you look at these phases that people have to go through, this is following this triangle. Engage with this topic, incorporate suffering, learn from the suffering, engage in a new topic, learn new suffering from that topic. And it just goes on and on and on, right? And what Aristotle's pointing out is this is a lifelong conversation that happens over and over and over, right? So then, after we get to that one, I can't see.
I get that.
We get the reading mode. Shut up. Fucking asshole. We're at 3, right?
Yeah.
So we're moving on to 4. I'm trying to find it. So this is, I wish I could show it. Maybe I'll throw it up.
Yeah, throw it up there like a PowerPoint.
Yeah, like a PowerPoint. We get to, okay, purpose, tone, and mode. That's the next one, okay? Which is all this is leading to a central triangle that marketing lives in.
Now, if you haven't figured this out yet, Aristotle was a badass.
Yeah, he was awesome.
He saw all of this.
He saw all this. And I'm going to throw it up there so you can see the entire, when you have all 6 triangles put together, it's mind-blowing. It's pretty awesome.
It's magical.
It's very magical. It's my favorite thing in the world.
Gonna lose your Aristotelian virginity.
I lost my Aristotelian virginity a long time ago. My Aristotelian cherry got popped. All right.
I knew you were gonna say that shit. I wasn't gonna say it, but I knew you were gonna say it. How did I know?
Purpose, tone, and mode. So the message. Now, here's the other thing about this, right? Each one of these triangles that lay on top of the author text audience are focusing on one portion of the triangle, right? So when you look at logos, pathos, and ethos, that's focused on the author. Then you get to character, that's focused on the text. Now we're getting to purpose, tone, and mode. The next one up, you're actually focusing on the audience.
Yes.
Right? This particular triangle. And then the last 2 kind of heighten what's going on with the other 4. But in order to get the message across to the audience, you have to have a reason to connect with them. Okay, so this is actually more like the pathos, right? Coming back to that emotional drive. And that's what drives the purpose. And then what happens is, as the purpose is being as the purpose is being constructed, you form a tone, right? And the mode that the tone is being presented in, which is genre, is how the purpose is actually conveyed, right? So again, going back to the commercials, right? When we look at the bounty commercial, that's the easiest one to pick apart.
I agree.
The purpose of that commercial is get you to buy more paper towels.
Yes.
Okay? So who's going to buy the paper towels?
Mom.
Mom. So that sets the tone, right? And then of course the genre being the commercial, right, sets the tone or helps take the tone and convey it to the mom, thus completing the purpose of that particular commercial. And that's how this triangle works. And again, it's all about the audience. It's all about engagement with the audience. The last two are more just taking the other four and utilizing them. So you have the act of writing, the reading motives, and then what he calls experience, which also focuses on gender and age, right? So the act of writing itself, okay? Excuse me. Engaging with the audience through writing, or in what we've been talking about, visually, right? Of course, how's that born?
Yeah.
Born through writing.
That's right.
Right? In order for the act of writing to actually work, you have to understand the reading motives of the audience. What is their purpose? What are they wanting? Right? As far as how are you going to get them? This goes back to genre, right? So like if you go to a 12-year-old today and you hand them Macbeth, they're not gonna know what the fuck to do with it.
No.
They're like, there's some witches in this, that's cool. But if you take Wishbone, you remember Wishbone?
Oh yeah.
And you do Macbeth with Wishbone, all of a sudden they get it.
It's
Because
speaking to
that's
that audience.
It is. That's their reading motive. Their motive is understanding that dog on PBS, right? And of course, that's all dictated by the experience of the reader itself. What experiences has this reader had? So when you look at different genres of books, they're speaking to specific types of experience that the audience that's going to read that book has.
Which is easy for Shakespeare because we've experienced everything he writes about.
Yes.
Except murder.
Murder most foul.
Yep.
What does he say? Murder. Murder most foul. And then the top triangle. And this is the one that they're all building towards, which is, and I got it. Product, purpose, and relationship. Like I said, this is the one that marketing lives in.
Yes.
And of course, this is what everything is built towards. They have something that they want to give you. And I explain this with my classes like this. Let's say you're sitting at home and you got like your boyfriend, girlfriend, brother, sister, whatever. They want tacos. You want pizza. The product is the food. How are you going to get them to want the pizza? Okay? So then you start looking at the purpose as far as which one is going to be better for them. Not you, because you already know the answer. What's going to be better for them?
Right.
The tacos or the pizza? And then, of course, you use the relationship that you've already established between yourself and that other person, and the relationship of the food to that person, and you manipulate it using the modes. And that is how this all works. So when we get to the top triangle, you actually see how all of this underneath it has been building to this moment where you're actually having and engaging with the conversation, and how you're manipulating that conversation. Because remember what Aristotle said, you don't have to be the smartest, you just got to know how to control it.
Yep.
Once you understand how to control the conversation, now you can manipulate the other person, regardless of their intellect. Now, everybody has the power to run the conversation.
Yep.
The trick is, this is what the Southern aristocracy figured out. You get ahead of the message. You set all these triangles in place to geared towards one specific message, and you hammer that message, and you make the other people, the other party of the conversation, believe that there is no other message. It's the only message. And that's what we see. And the Southern aristocracy was brilliant at setting this message
Yes.
because they were the smallest minority in the South, and yet they had all the pull. Something like 72% of the population of the South was poor white.
Yep.
But if you listen to the Southern aristocracy, the slave population was going to take them over.
Yep.
They had no idea that they had much larger numbers.
Well, and they didn't understand they were being played.
Yeah.
And that's the brilliance of it.
Yeah.
It is absolutely brilliant. And terrifying.
The aristocracy created ignorance when there was none.
Yeah. And unfortunately, and this is a side note, right? People still haven't picked up on it today.
Yeah.
You still see poor whites and blacks deeply divided when they have more in common than they have differences.
Yeah.
And what would happen if they worked together? You would see a radical shift.
Well, it's that skit from SNL, Black Jeopardy.
Yeah.
They had Tom Hanks on there.
And he knows
He was
everything
MAGA.
they know. Yeah.
He understands everything. He connects to everything. And then at the very end of the skit, they pull the rhetorical trick, right? Final Jeopardy, the Final Jeopardy category, right? The national anthem.
Yep. It was fun while it lasted, Doug.
I got a few things to say about that. I'm sure you do, Doug.
SNL is great with rhetoric.
Yeah.
And they expose rhetoric,
They do.
especially when they run their political stuff.
Yep,
It's brilliant.
it is.
Like when they did the whole thing with Spicy. I mean, they're making fun of the way he ran his show.
Yeah, when she picks up the podium and starts attacking that girl. Oh my God.
So when you teach these, do your students get it?
Sometimes. It's heavy shit.
It is heavy shit.
We spend the entire semester going over each one. Like I do 2 days of just the triangles. And then throughout the course of the semester, like tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the character triangle.
'Cause you're doing literature.
Because we're doing lit, we're getting ready to get into Gatsby. And so
Right.
we're going to talk about not just Nick, but Gatsby and all the other characters within the book
Yeah.
and their
That's right.
motives, right? Because they're all informed by some kind of suffering. Vonnegut explained this best when it comes to writing.
Oh, I remember this one. This one's great.
The glass of water.
Yes.
Yes. He said, if you want, the best story is you create a character who's thirsty, and you have a glass of water in the room, and you knock the glass of water over. Now he has to find more water. There's your story. You've introduced suffering. It illustrates Aristotle's point to a T. You create suffering, and now that character has to overcome that suffering to engage in another topic, and the other topic would be the glass of water. He's got to find more water.
Yeah.
It's genius.
It is.
Nobody has broken it down that simple.
Leave
Better
it,
than Vonnegut.
leave it to a non-academic to do it too.
Well, he was an academic. He was in chemistry.
No, but I'm saying at that point in his life,
Yeah,
he'd
no,
walked
he-
away from the academy.
Yep. Yeah, he wasn't even teaching anymore.
Yep. No, maybe guest lectures, but
Yeah.
that's it.
That one video where he's drawing the lines.
Yeah.
So good, Cinderella.
Did I find that one?
Yeah,
That one's great.
it is. When he talks about Cinderella. The shoe fits, she finds happiness.
So you force your students into using these modes.
Yes.
Or-
The triangles.
Yeah, not modes, sorry, that's genre. You force them into using the triangles in their own writing
Yeah.
and to identify the triangles in the writing of others.
In their researching. Because what they're doing is they're breaking everything down,
Right.
right? And thus, but that goes along with the classical argument that he created, which is another piece of genius,
Yes.
because he lays out exactly how you make an argument and how you can actually persuade your audience through this argument. But the other thing he talks about, and this is what I have to beat into my kids' heads, And he comes back to this over and over and over in Poetics. You're not writing for the other side. Your argument is not for the other side. You're engaging with the other side. But ultimately, the goal is to win the middle,
That's right.
the undecided.
Which is what politics has been about for a very long time.
Yeah.
Since before Aristotle.
Mm-hmm.
As long as there's been a Senate of some kind, there's been a desire to win the middle.
Yep.
As long as we've had voters.
Grassy ass.
This lighter has lasted like a year and a half.
Yeah, I know.
That lighter lasted like 10 minutes.
Shut up.
You got to refill it, man.
I got to refill it.
I don't know. I see tremendous value in it. I think, again, for someone my son's age at 9, you would start more simply, but I think you have to work your way up to it.
Yeah. Well,
They need to know this
okay,
shit.
my daughter and your son are about the same age. I think she's
10.
like 6 months
Yeah.
older than he is.
He was born in August.
They are the perfect age to start introducing them to the base triangle. All the
Yes.
text audience. You don't want to give them the modes yet.
No.
You want to give them just the base triangle because that's something that everybody can grasp. It's the most simple of the triangles. And it explains everything rather well and rather just broad, you know? The author writes a text for an audience that's going to determine what the author's going to do. Done. And of course, everything is connected through voice. I didn't go into context or any of that,
No.
right? But everything is connected through the voice, the tone of the voice, the tenor of the voice, right? And you get that in everything. Like this stupid flower or this stupid heart behind us, right? It's promoting a voice. There's a tone to it.
There is.
And it's connecting the audience to that piece.
Yeah, it's March, by the way. You can take that down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the freaking Love Day is done, pal. Fucking corporate holiday. Anyway,
I hate it.
dumbest damn holiday we have.
Yes.
It doesn't even make, like Labor Day makes more sense than this.
Well, Labor Day is ultimately a socialist holiday. It
Yeah.
celebrates labor.
Yeah.
I mean,
So you take the day off.
so you take the day off. Yeah. No labor on Labor
No
Day.
labor on Labor Day. But no, Valentine's Day, are you kidding? It's a holiday built
It's entirely on money.
on money.
That's it.
At least Christmas hasn't completely, it's like 80% money. The other 20% is whatever.
Well, this is why I like the other 11 days, right, of Christmas, because by the time it's over, by the time Christmas Day is over, the market doesn't care anymore.
Yeah.
But we still do.
Yeah.
We're still doing it.
Yeah.
And it's more fun because nobody else is. They've let go of it because they've spent their money.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. I think introducing them to the most basic triangles at an early age they can handle.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said for lived experience when it comes to rhetoric. So, and maybe the best way to teach little children about rhetoric is to persuade them to do something without them knowing you persuaded them, and then tell them what you did.
Yeah.
Right, and then unpacking every move you made to get them to do what you wanted. Every single maneuver,
Yeah.
all of it. And then it's real to them because they saw it happen in their lives. They're like, oh my God, this is horrifying.
Well, the thing that Aristotle points out, because remember with him, it's all about the communication.
Yes.
Right, this is where this actually takes place. Rhetoric happens naturally, and the way I explain this to my students is, think about when I call roll. I say your name. It's going to elicit one of two reactions, either dead silence, which means you're not here, or you're going to repeat that action
right.
by letting me know that you're here in some way. Grunt, name, hey, screw you, Mr. B, whatever.
Yeah.
You're engaging with that conversation. I triggered the response that I wanted by calling your name. You're engaging with it by responding. That's Aristotelian rhetoric. That's rhetoric. And that's what Aristotle is talking about, and that's why he said Plato was wrong. Plato was... The more I learn about that bastard...
Well, Plato's an idealist.
He is, but he creates this hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
He basically does what, and Emerson took it and ran with it.
Yes.
Protect the intellectual.
Yes.
I wish we lived in that day and age.
We'd be set.
We'd be set for life, bruh. People come up to us and say, "Thank you for being smart." You're welcome.
Plato believed in this the kind of the ideal plane, and Aristotle says, not really. No.
Yeah, no.
No, I mean it's just this is
human
more
nature.
It's human nature. It's more complicated than you think,
Yep.
and it's uglier than you think.
Yep.
Because Aristotle's living in a time watching politics happen all around him.
Yep.
Watching people duped.
Yep.
Every day.
Yep.
And he just says, "Okay, I've got to write this down because you're just not getting it. You're not getting it." Or in his case, he didn't write shit down. These are all lecture notes, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
These are all lectures. That's why. Okay, so if you ever want to read the Poetics,
it's
be
a
ready.
mess.
It is a disaster.
It has a certain postmodernist flavor.
It does.
It reads like experimental drugs. It's like, but how did you get from here to here?
I always likened it to, you know, those ransom notes with the random letters cut out? That's the Poetics.
It is.
You put it all together and it makes sense, but oh my God.
It's a train wreck.
It is. It's a train wreck.
He never thought to write it down.
No, he didn't write it. He was just lecturing, and they were writing it down for him, and then they put it together.
And it was a mess.
And it was a disaster. But it's, when you put it in the whole, as a whole, and you're looking at it, it's phenomenal.
It is.
It's some of the most incredible stuff ever.
It's one of the...
I'll take that over Plato and Socrates any day.
It's one of the most important human achievements ever. What makes Socrates so great is you learn one thing from Socrates.
Yeah.
Question everything.
Mm-hmm.
If Socrates did nothing else...
Was it he said, if I know one thing, it's that I know nothing?
Yeah, all I know is that I know nothing.
Yep.
That's right.
All I know is
I don't know what it actually is in Greek, but yeah, I mean, and that's powerful.
Yeah.
Question everything.
Yeah.
But what Aristotle does for us is he creates a roadmap for living.
Yeah.
Or what Kenneth Burke referred to literature as tools for living.
Yeah.
And so is Aristotle's rhetoric.
Yeah.
It's tools for living because you're going to be approached by this every day of your life in some way or another.
Burke's argument about the ongoing conversation, that's straight from Aristotle.
Yes, it is. The going to a party, putting your oar in.
Yep, the parlor.
Oh, it's so good.
Burke's parlor.
Burke is great.
He is. Okay, so if you don't know, we'll do it real quick. Burke's parlor is you show up to a party.
You show up late.
You show up late to a party. And there's a conversation. And you don't know what the conversation is about, so you listen. And as you listen, you start to get the tenor of the argument. I think, or the conversation. That's what he says. The tenor of it.
Yes.
He said, and eventually, you know enough that you can put your oar in.
Yep.
In other words, you can start engaging. And then it comes time to leave. And so you do. You have said what you need to say, and you leave. But
the conversation
keeps going.
That's right.
After you leave.
It's a beautiful analogy.
Yes.
For what scholarship is supposed to be.
Yep. But that's also Aristotle's argument that the conversation never ends.
Never.
And you engage with it, and then you disengage. But while you're engaged with it, you're using rhetoric to persuade. Constant persuasion. Everything we do in life, and this is another part of Aristotle's argument against Plato, everything we do in life is an engagement with persuasion.
Yes.
Even if it's just yourself, you're trying to persuade yourself to do certain things. And you're having that internal dialogue. You're weighing the pros and the cons. That's Aristotelian. It's beautiful stuff.
It is beautiful stuff.
All right. I guess that's it for this one. You already said your thing.
I did, and I said it early.
You did.
But it's, I mean, I feel like a one-trick pony here because and I don't think you disagree with me, but my answer to most of life's problems is education.
Yeah, it is.
I think it actually is that simple. I think we found a way to complicate this.
Well, that is
it's not
actually,
complicated.
As much as I bitch about him, that's Plato's argument.
Yeah. There's nothing that education and knowledge can't solve.
Yeah.
Learn about it. Ask the hard questions. and doubt everything
Yeah.
until you're convinced otherwise through rhetoric.
Yeah.
And not all rhetoric's bad. That's maybe the thing we didn't talk about enough
Yeah.
is that
It's not all bad.
no, a lot of rhetoric's good because as long as you're willing to lay bare your evidence and say, look, I'm really trying to convince you to believe the death penalty is bad.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it by making these points and using this evidence. That's honest.
Yeah.
That's respectable.
Yeah.
And we need that kind of rhetoric.
Yeah.
But that rhetoric is lacking in society.
In
It's
this day and
missing.
age, yeah.
It's not here. And there was a time when it existed. Not surprisingly, it existed when we taught rhetoric.
Yeah.
And now we've churned out generation after generation after generation who has no understanding of rhetoric at all.
The classic class that has been left behind is critical thinking.
I agree.
We have jettisoned critical thinking because of No Child Left Behind and because of Common Core and because of Race to the Top.
Yep.
All of those educational initiatives ditched critical thinking.
Yep. It should be its
And
own
we're paying
class.
for it now.
We are.
The labor force right now, what a lot of, and this is what we've heard from Guilford Tech a lot, every time they bring this up, the vocational people bring it up. They say the one thing employers are looking for are critical thinking skills.
Yes.
Because right now the labor force does not have it.
No, they don't.
And if they do, it's very minimal.
Well, and they're not getting it in business school. I mean, it
No.
may not be a very popular thing to say, but
Yeah.
they're not getting it there. The most, I would say they do get critical thinking when they get into business ethics,
Yeah.
but that's one course.
Well, and again, it goes back to this attack on the humanities. Because where is critical thinking taught?
Yeah.
Within the humanities. And so this jettisoning of the humanities for STEM.
Yes.
But the thing is, you got to have critical thinking for STEM.
You do. You do.
That's the problem.
This is the importance of a well-rounded education.
Yes.
You want to learn critical thinking, you need math, you need literature, you need philosophy, you need science, you need history,
Yep.
you need philosophy of religion, you need religious studies. You need it all.
Yep.
And that's the best way to do it is by saying you're going to take these courses. You may not love mathematics.
Right.
You may not even plan on being a mathematician. But look at the benefits that come out of understanding math. Is the ability to understand abstractions
Yeah.
and difficult concepts. And you're going to tell me you're not going to apply that to your everyday life? Really? You may never have to derive anything or do an integral or any number of mathematical functions. However, the skills you picked up there, you will use for the rest of your damn life.
Yep.
Okay, I said it all. I'm spent. I'm tired, man.
All right, that's Dr. J. I'm the barber. Peace.
Was that better?
Now it's time for Dr. J.